Tonight's webinar is Chartering New Chapters, Your Chamber Relationship, and Governmental Meetings. And my name is Heather Vardell. I'm your National Membership Director. And on the webinar with me co-training is the past president of the Illinois JCs, Tricia Beanie. Tonight's objectives are strategy meetings, and this is for when you are chartering or rebuilding a chapter. It'll say chapter rebuilds at the top, but this is for both chartering new chapters or chapter rebuilds. Building a board of directors. Your first project, the different documents that are available to you, like the Civic Leadership Certification for new chapters, guide to launching a new chapter, membership survey and chapter affiliation application, talking points for new chapter meetings, the Chamber Memorandum of Agreement, new chapter structure, membership involvement, and governmental meetings.
Some of the first strategies of the chapter rebuild is once you have identified your 1 to 3 members who want to rebuild the chapter, host a strategy session with them. At the strategy discussion, please discuss meeting dates, times, and locations, a potential member list, branding, preliminary project ideas, current project that you would want to keep. Discuss what went wrong and get buy-in for the change. Create a to-do list and a timeline for the next 6 months. Look over the membership database and get a clear picture of what is going on to get your best 20 members. And sign up for the Shoot for Success. Maybe guys can help on the national level as well with someone helping you. And keep committed to the chapter for at least 6 months to help them work through the process. It's basically just brainstorming on what you can keep and what you shouldn't keep. And make sure you guys have a potential member list and always go over the number because you know not everybody will join.
Tricia, I can barely hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you better now when you talk just then.
Okay.
All right, and this one was geared more towards chapter rebuilds. So to be clear on discussing what went wrong and buy-in for the change, that only needs to happen at this very first strategy meeting. Once you start hosting your informational meetings and other like projects and stuff like that, you need to not talk about the past and what went wrong, specifically in chapter rebuilds. Your next handful of meetings, it could be anywhere from 2 to 5 meetings. These are informational meetings to recruit potential members and share what it means to be a JC. This is when you're going to want to get those folders from ED Joel. You'll just email him and tell him how many you want and where to send them. And then close a business card, a membership survey, some information about our organization, which are found on the website. It's called JCI USA, About Us, membership benefits, and training opportunities. And then I like to toss in there the chapter meeting and chapter structure just so that they can get some information about what a meeting looks like and how the structure of the chapter will be set up. And this is your golden opportunity to really get them engaged. So I would give them the first 3 degrees of Passport to Civic Leadership. You don't want them to become overwhelmed, so hand the information out, give them time to look over it, talk amongst themselves, and ask questions at the end. And then you'll want to leave time for planning at the end of each meeting, making sure that you're discussing their membership surveys and getting feedback from everybody. And then at the end of each one of these meetings, you're going to want to challenge them to bring 1 to 3 prospects to the next meeting. And you'll keep hosting these until you get to about 15 members. And this is how you'll really either rebuild or charter your new chapter.
Then you have to build a new board. In building a new board, you need to identify your new president and president out of the key members. Have one-on-one meeting with the potential president to discuss the board positions, their additional expectations, any questions they may have. Print out the job descriptions off the JCI USA website. Remember this, if this is a new chapter, so sometimes less can be more. Don't necessarily take so many VP or additional positions. Keep the board down to an internal VP, external VP, secretary, treasurer, and president. Host an election. After they meet with the new team and assist them in hosting their first planning session. And don't forget, they are not only new leaders, they are brand new members. There is a learning curve. One thing I also want to add in this is the acronyms. I know we have a lot of acronyms, and I have to explain to that what that is sometimes. So that's one big thing I always try to do as well.
And then once your board is has been elected, you want to host your first board planning session. And keep in mind when you are hosting this to make sure all of the board members know that this will be at least a 4 to 8 hour long meeting. Don't let them show up thinking that they're only going to show up for a standard business meeting type day. Make sure everyone has a calendar, notebook, pen, they come prepared and what to expect. Use the plan of action template on the JCI USA website and work through building a plan of action with them, making sure they are setting realistic, achievable goals. Focus on short-term and long-term opportunities. I have found with rebuilding and chartering a new chapter, when you get that brand new board, they think that they're going to recruit 50 members and host this huge project that raises tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm not saying that isn't possible, because it totally is, but it's your job to hone them in as a state or local leader from another chapter who's helping build or rebuild this chapter, just to hone them in on realistic, achievable goals. And then assist them with the Civic Leadership Certification Program, and have all new board members, enrolled in the Passport to Civic Leadership Program. It's real hard for them to sell that program if they're not enrolled in it as well. And then walk through how to put together a project management guide.
The first project. Make sure they have done the first 7 questions of the PMG. During the project, be present, help, and make sure you're positive. Work to have the state team and other chapters there for support. After the project is complete, meet with them to finalize the PMG and provide any feedback on the project.
For new chapters, building chapters are the same essentially once you have rebuild chapters are developing new chapters are the same. You just have to pick a location generally. You need to figure out where you want to host, where you want to charter the chapter, have potential members there, close to a stronger chapter that can assist them if possible, or a city who's looking for an organization like yours. Like yours. Your NVP, myself, the Director of Member Services, and executive committees are here to assist you with locating a city or area selection on how to get it started. So if you have in your mind where you want to charter a new chapter, and you want to talk about it with somebody over demographics, other YP groups, the chamber, any kind of information like that, you reach out to any of us and we can help you with the demographics and making sure that your new chapter can be successful. There are resources online such as extension checklists, how to start a new chapter, and then going over the key member method, how to get a new chapter EIN, etc. And then once you've selected the location, you'll essentially follow the same steps as the rebuild with those chapter meetings like we discussed in the previous slides.
In here you will see the CLC certification for new chapters. It's a little small, but it's a little bit easier, and there's not as much there as in the regular CLC.
And if when you're chartering a new chapter, it is key to have them enrolled in this program so that they can learn how to be efficient in our paperwork and be used to what the expectations are of our chapters. And like Tricia said, I know it's really small, but we just wanted you to make sure to be able to, one, see it and know that it is on the website. And of course, this will be available for anyone who wants a copy of it. Launching a new chapter, these two pieces of information are also on the website. There is a guide for launching a new chapter. I would highly recommend reading over that and asking any questions to your state team, your national team, or anyone on the national staff that can assist you in launching the new chapter.
Also, one thing you don't want to forget is membership surveys. That is very important to figure out what people want. We fill them out a lot. We have them on a clipboard that we use in some of our chapters around here. So that is one thing that we get, and then you get the information that you can contact the person back about through email, text message, or anything. Also on the right-hand side is the chapter affiliation form that you will need to fill out once you do get your chapter extension ready to go. And then the chapter president and the state president will have to sign off on it, and then this goes into nationals. And then you would pay as well for your extension fee.
With the membership survey, especially on a chapter rebuild or a new chapter, a lot of people mistakenly only give those out at the beginning. As you're recruiting members and continuing to build and rebuild, you're going to want to do those membership surveys continuously throughout the year so that you're making sure that you're planning events and hosting speakers, etc., that your members want to be involved in. And then, of course, we said in the previous slides that, to host these meetings. And if you are not familiar with chartering a new chapter or rebuilding a new chapter, we have put together a list of talking points for you. And again, I know that this is really small, but the point was to more or less show you that this is a tool that is available, not to go over each talking point. So this is on the website. When you log in, you'll go to you'll do the member sign in and go to our library, and it is on there. And of course, if you have any questions about talking points, you can reach out to your state team, your MVP, or myself. Our past president, Tricia, the reason I asked her to co-train this is because she chartered the most chapters last year that were extremely successful. So she actually helped me put together these talking points for this training for State President's Retreat for last year for the state presidents that are this year. So this would be a great tool to go and look at whenever you're trying to charter or rebuild a chapter. Even if you're trying to rebuild your own chapter, these are great tools and information to use.
This is a chamber memorandum of agreement. A lot of times, if you go to your local chamber, they will endorse you pretty much for starting a JC chapter. I know that happened with me last year when our Edwardsville, you just go to them and talk to them and they will give you a letter.
Also with the Memorandum of Agreement, if your local chamber does not have a YP group and they are interested in the JCs being their local YP group, this is an official Memorandum of Agreement, and please note that if you print this off and take it into your local chamber, every item on this list is negotiable. So you can take anything off and you can add anything to it that suits your chapter and your local chamber. This is not a written in stone document. This is an example of a Memorandum of Agreement that was written with a local chamber and a local chapter. And it was so successful that that local chapter actually got the budget item from the chamber for a YP group, which was $10,000. And again, I'm not saying that will happen every single time, but that's just another opportunity available to you. And this really just shows a good example of an agreement between the chamber and the local JC group. So it's just worth looking into and pursuing, especially if your local chamber does not have a YP group or does not have a very successful YP group. And these are the two documents this is the new chapter structure. It's called local, on the JCI website it says JCI USA National, our new chapter structure, and it's the local administrative structure. And essentially it goes over, like past President Tricia said, we recommend the smallest board you can have for new chapters, which is your president, 2 vice presidents, and a secretary treasurer. And this is just to not overwhelm too many people with the opportunities or stepping into a leadership role. And then as your chapter grows, you would add another vice president, maybe separate the secretary treasurer into 2 positions, and that's when you start adding your different directors. And this structure is here for your review. And I would take a look at it before going into any new meeting, especially if you're planning on building a brand new board. This just eliminates some of the stress of the 4 VPs, a secretary treasurer, and this huge board that takes up half of your membership, and people get burned out and overwhelmed too quickly. So until your chapter is about 30 active members, I would stick with the internal, external VP and a secretary treasurer. And that's really an internal thing on whether or not they want to have the secretary treasurer be 1 or 2 people. If you have 2 people overly interested, obviously let the 2 people, but if you don't, the secretary treasurer can be the same person.
This is the membership involvement form. It's basically why you join the JC's new member meetings, and goes over some information about how to engage members and everything like that.
And it talks about what's expected of them and what they should and shouldn't be involved in and the different opportunities. I know one thing that a lot of people worry about or struggle with is value in the organization. And this really lays out in a very, very brief, non-overwhelming way the different value opportunities that are available to them as members. And all of these tools are, like I said, on the website and should be going in a nice, neat folder to your potential members at these informational meetings as you're chartering or rebuilding a new chapter. And that is the end of this webinar. I see that there is a question. Are there talking points for addressing when there are already a YP group affiliated with a chamber within the community as how to... Yes, Lisa, there are. If you would email me this information about your questions about the YP group within your chamber, I will email you some information. My email, I'll type it in. That is I just sent my email. If you would email me your 2 questions there about the chamber and the YP group, I will send you some information to assist you with that.
There's another question as well. On the checklist, is there notification as to when each of these forms need to be completed by and who to submit them to when they are complete?
The only form, the chapter affiliation form, you turn that in to Edie Joel when you, have the $250 fee for chartering a new chapter and the money for your first 10 members. Of course, if you have more than 10 members, then the money for each member that you've recruited between 10 plus. So there's no quote deadline, but you turn that in as soon as you have the 10 members and the money. From there, once you have your new charter in place, I would immediately start with the Civic Leadership Certification and membership survey. No, there's not a deadline on when to do those checklists, but I would continuously do them to make sure that you are answering questions and continuing to build the chapter. The more time that lags in between meetings, the less interest and likelihood you'll charter or rebuild your new chapter. Great
That's all
question.
I see.
Okay.
Questions.
Okay. Okay, good. You got my email address. Okay, great. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, please feel free to reach out to any of us. I know that chartering new chapters and rebuilding new chapters can be intimidating and take a lot of time. They say that a new charter takes roughly 3 years from the time you started to the time it really can stand alone and be independent and not need as much assistance. So that's what we are here for, to help you with. Please, please let us know. Oh, here's some more questions. Are all the forms available so you can type in response online versus print? Yes, all of the forms are available in a Word edit format, so you can just save them on your computer and type over them or in them, and then send them on to whomever you need to. How to involve senators safely in rebuilding a chapter? Well, that's a loaded question there, Jonathan Gray. Safely, I would. There is always. I'm sure that you know of at least one or two senators who you know that you can trust in rebuilding a chapter, and they might not necessarily be associated with the chapter you're talking about rebuilding. I would go to someone that you know is a trusted alumni and talk to them about any hesitations you have with the chapter you're trying to rebuild, and seek any advice from them. Without knowing specifics about the chapter, it's very hard for me to answer that, but I did put my email address out there, so if you want to email me, we can set up a time to talk about this one-on-one. But my first knee-jerk reaction is for you to go to someone, an alumni member in your state that you trust, them, and talk to them. Perfect. Thank you. Are there any more questions? Great questions. All right, if not, we will end tonight's webinar. This is recorded, and I will be sending it to Katie to post on our YouTube page, so please feel free to review it again. All the information will be on there. If you want a copy of the slides, you can shoot me over an email, and I will be happy to share them with you as well. Other than that, have a great evening, and I will talk to some of you soon.